Hello and welcome back to my channel after I've been on a really long hiatus. I'm back and we're going to be actually starting a new series in Factorio. There's nothing really wrong with the old series, it's just that there's been a lot of new updates to Factorio in the meantime. And I feel like the best way to take advantage of it is to basically just start fresh, start new. I've learned a couple of things on my last playthrough. So we're going to be incorporating a new mentality going into the game. The goal with this is going to be pretty much the same. I do eventually want to get to that Megafactory status, and I know that there's not a whole lot of concrete definition on what a Megafactory is in Factorio. I always think of it as a factory that can launch one rocket per minute. Um, I mean, your definitions may vary, and maybe there's something a little more official out there, but that's always kind of been the benchmark for me. So I'm going to eventually be working toward that, but I also just kind of want to just do a free play, just have fun with it, and see what kinds of interesting stuff we can do in the factory. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and go into the new game options. For this, one of the things that has changed recently is, I mean, this has been out for a while now, but not since the last time I recorded a video, is that you have all these presets now for various settings. I personally like using the rail world, but I do like to modify it just a little bit because the thing about rail world is that biters won't create any new bases or re-expand into cleared territory. And I can understand the appeal for that in a rail world, because the concept of a rail world is that it's moving all of it. It moves your resource settings a lot farther out, so that they're not as close by. You have to go exploring and find them. So the idea is that you don't want to have to clear out like 10 miles worth of railroad tracks just to get to an between your main factory and your outposts and all that kind of stuff. But it kind of takes away some of the combat nature of the game by doing that. And at least that's just my personal opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change a few settings here. For example, you have all these new settings when related to the biters. Down here we have the enemy expansion, which is disabled. I'm going to go ahead and re-enable that. But I'm going to play around with some of the cooldown parameters. The idea here is that anywhere between 4 and 60 minutes right now, a biter base will send out a new scouting party to create a new little nest. I'm going to go ahead and bump up the minimum to be about 20 minutes. And there we go. So it'll be a slow thing, but it will happen. And that's one of the things that I would prefer, that every now and then I just have to go out and clear out a few bases here and there. With some of the newer additions, there's also the artillery cannons that can be I think they're called artillery turrets, but they can fire on enemy bases within like a sizable radius. But that's not, down the ways bit. So in the meantime, we're going to have just a little bit of biter issues to be dealing with. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to go over here to the resource setting, just kind of check out what it has for everything. Because one of the things about building a mega factory is that you do want a lot of rich resource spawns. So I might tweak some of these just a little bit. I never feel like I need to do much with uranium, with the new nuclear power plants that they have. It's never really been too much of a problem. Crude oil, I might want to bump that up to good. As far as these other things, I'm going to go ahead and make iron and copper good as well. Stone, I'm always a little torn on stone, because you do need a lot of it in the late game for building concrete and railroad segments and stuff. but I might just go ahead and leave that where it is. As the same thing with coal, because once you get out of the base, coal burning mindset, it's not as big of an issue. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and leave that on regular. I could play around with the size, but I think big is right about where it should be. So, I mean, that encourages the player to go out and find new resources. So I think I'm going to leave that alone. Let's go ahead and generate a preview. This is another new feature that they've put in since the last time I created a video. Nice thing is that it kind of just takes all the settings that you have now and gives you a basic idea of the starting and surrounding areas. Now this is pretty nice. Our starting area is going to be right around here in the middle, so you've got your iron and your copper and your stone and your coal and water and etc. etc. But there's also like a lot of nice cliffs in the area, which are another new thing since the last time I created a video. There's a nice oil patch over here next to a sizable iron patch as well. Up here, there's actually I think no, that is a stone patch. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty nice starting area. You can kind of see the size of things. I'm not seeing a lot of copper though. There's just this little starting patch here. Yeah, lots of huge stone. A little bit of copper over here. There's not a lot of that. So maybe I want to go ahead and regenerate. Ooh, it's going to put me in the desert on this one. Let's take a look at how it fills out the surrounding areas. Again, I'm not seeing a lot of copper. Is there an issue with my copper settings? I mean, I know that's kind of the whole deal there. Let's try generating another one. Maybe it was just a fluke. Got a lot of nice big lakes over here. There is an immense amount of stone on all these maps. Okay, there's a nice little patch of copper. There's some over here. It mainly just so that I know that there are patches out there somewhere that I can expand to. I'm not like gonna memorize their locations necessarily, but yeah, there's really not a lot of copper in all this. Let's go ahead and up the frequency there. Let's see if that helps. Yeah, there it goes. Alright. Not bad, not bad. There's a nice chunk of uranium over there. There's some absolutely enormous spots of stone, so I really don't think I need to mess around with those too much. Yeah, there's a couple of stone, or copper rather, in the immediate vicinity. Oh, this actually looks like it has some oil right here on the forefront of where we're going. Almost makes it a little too easy. Let's go ahead and give it another shot there. Okay, that seems a little bit more reasonable. Yeah. Alright, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead with that. I'll go ahead and hit play. Alright. Alright, one of the first things I always like to do when I start a new game is to collect some coal, because coal is the lifeblood of at least your early factory. Let me give myself a brand new pick there. And get a little bit of starting coal to get the things running. I also realized that coal does not need a furnace. But it will need a box. It'll need something to put those in. And for right now, the only thing I can do is make one out of wood. So there we go. And we are off and running there. Now, the second thing you always want to do is to get more, or get started on your iron collection. So I'm going to go ahead and get that rolling. Now, this one will need a furnace, so I'll go ahead and put that down. In fact, I'm going to get the furnace running first, just so that I can get a somewhat steady supply of iron plates. And just keep feeding that. And that'll be good for now. I'm going to go run and get some stone so I can build a few more furnaces. Luckily, those are pretty easy to build. Gonna get some more coal here, because you can never have too much coal. Now, the early game is like predominantly coal and iron. I'm gonna go ahead and get that going. Alright. I'm gonna get some of these big rocks out of my way. The nice thing about those is that each one is like 20 or more stone, so a little bit of extra time, but it pays off really well. And it gets those things out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and double up on my coal production. I have two coal burning drills, feeding each other. That way they never run out of fuel. Each one's just depositing into the other one. It's time for another pick already. And get some of these big rocks out of the way, like I was saying. The big sandy rocks actually give you like 10% more stone than the regular rocks. And then the next thing on the list, of course, second to iron is copper. I'm going to go ahead and get those started. Pick up a little more coal. And then I'm going to go ahead and just double up on those. Have them each feeding each other. The only time those things will stop is if they get full and have nowhere to put the coal that they're outputting. So essentially, like when it's full, when all four of those drills are full, they're gonna stop. But then, hey, you've got 4 full drills full of coal. So it's a nice little thing. All right, got all of these things running. I think it's time to start setting up our electrical power production, because coal is nice and all, but I hate really having to run back and forth all these times. I mean, I'm going to have to do that a lot anyway, because like I said, coal is the lifeblood of an early factory. So we're going to go ahead and get those now. I could put this around here somewhere. I'm thinking right there, and it's not letting me put the big thing there. And I know that eventually, they've also modified this slightly since the last time I played a video, is that they've changed how these engines work. So now it's a larger boiler, but it can feed, you only need one boiler for 2 engines. And realizing in hindsight, of course, by watching this video secondhand, I've set that up completely wrong. We'll get around to changing that here in a moment. The first thing I want to set up is some research, because you can't really do much with the factory until you start researching stuff. And for that I'm going to need a lot of iron and a lot of copper, because there's a lot of circuitry and other things like along that line that goes into it. And circuitry requires a lot of copper. So we're going to have to start building up a few things. And alright, hook up an outlet for my power. And everything there says it was working just fine. I mean, there's no signals there, but then when I put down the lab, it's saying it's not getting power. I wonder why. I'm going to go ahead and start crafting up some of the first science packs in my inventory. The only way you can really do it, by the way. And it has been so long since I've started a new factory, I have completely forgotten how to set everything up. And then, of course, I realize here I have this going completely the wrong way. The water is supposed to flow into the boiler, not the engine. Just like that. And it outputs steam, and then the steam goes into the works there, and it starts generating electricity. There we go, got all that working finally, and we have progress on our first research. I always do automation first, because that gives you the ability to create assembly machines with which you do just about everything else in the game. You can get a couple of those things built up in my inventory. I put in some of the green science packs, even though you really don't need them this early on in the game. Again, it's been a while. It's all coming back to me very slowly. So while you know the old brain gets back into gear, we're going to go ahead and set up a little bit of a rudimentary operation for the red science packs. I believe they're called Science Packs 1. You know, it's all coming back to me. Alright, we need gears and copper plates. And of course gears are created with iron plates. So I'm just going to set up a little temporary structure here that will feed my laboratory the Science Pack 1 as they're being created. Alright, I got all that set up, but I am running really low on resources here because those just absolutely chew up all of your iron plates. So I'm going to go ahead and set up 2 more iron furnaces. You know. Alright. And let's see. Just getting a few more things set up there. Alright, yeah. I'm definitely going to need more of these. I'm going to be setting up a better smelting system here shortly, but first I need to get a few things taken care of. It is the best approach is to start doing electrical mining drills as soon as you can, because that does take some of the pressure off of just constantly running back and forth the way I've been doing it here. But I also want to make sure that these are not running out of resources, and it was running a little low on iron plates, so I want to get a few more of those put in there first. I'm going to start it up with 6 mining drills. I think I only have 5 in my inventory, so I'll go ahead and craft up another one there. I'm going to keep these 4 running until I get it going, because that's my only source of iron plates right now. Alright, get some belts down there. And I know this is going to be my excuse for a while, but remember, I have not done this in a really long time, and I'm also trying to keep in mind that some things have changed since the last time I've done this. So, I mean, not so much here in the early game, except for the electricity generation, which we've already covered. But I believe most of this has stayed relatively the same. Just going to go ahead and start it off with 6. And one of the basic layouts that I'm going to be using here, it's a pretty standard layout. I realize I don't want the iron ore to be fed straight down the center. I'm going to have it feed around the sides. That way it's a little more expandable. Because if I need to add more, I can just continue the line downwards in this case. But I do want the iron ore to be on one side of the belt and coal fed on the other side. I want to make sure that everything is up and running here. This is a really hackneyed solution to the problem, but I assure you it's all temporary. This box is going to be feeding the coal onto the line. And I'm going to need some inserters. Crafting them all up. I don't know why I went ahead and crafted the red long-armed inserters. I honestly thought I was thinking about having a separate coal line in which we would need the extended inserters for feeding off of that belt, but we're not actually going to be using that. So I don't need them after all. I'm going to go deforest here a little bit. I'm sure that by the time we get up and going, like around Science Pack 3, this forest down here is going to be practically gone, if it's not dead by the time I get to that point first. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. Alright. Make sure that I get all the power lines set up. Get a little more research finished in the meantime. Alright. I apologize that it's so dark here, but we're going to be fixing that problem momentarily. There we go. Let there be light. We can see what we're doing. Now, I need to get some more coal. And it's just not going to be sufficient for the time being, so I'm going to go ahead and double it once again. So now there's 8 drills all feeding each other, keeping each other running. And that gives me a lot more to play around with. So there goes some coal down onto the line. And almost immediately, those furnaces all kick in, and they're going to start building up. So I'm going to go ahead and dismantle what I had before and add them in, so there will be a total of 10 furnaces. That should be plenty for our needs here in the immediate future. And then, of course, an inserter feeding that into a box. Make sure everything is running. There's that box. And it's just not picking up all those iron plates fast enough. So I switch it up to a fast inserter. That seems to be doing a lot better. Alright, and we're already going to need more coal. I'm going to check up over here first, because these also need some coal. I'm going to go ahead and put some in there. Get things up and running. Alright, pick up some more of this. It's really easy just to go along and like shift-click on all of those. I think it's shift-click. That allows you to pick up everything in the mining drill's inventory. It could be control-click. It's something that I just sort of do as, you know, muscle memory. I don't think about it too much when I'm doing it. And now here, when I'm trying to recall it, I don't exactly remember how it works. But suffice it to say, we got it all worked out. Alright, now we've got a lot of iron plate production. Now, I'm going to start thinking about where I'm going to put my main bus eventually. There's a nice blank area to our northeast. So that's going to be a good place to eventually get all this routed over. Going to be right up around here. Oh, put up some more lights so we can see what we're doing again. Wait for those to craft up in my inventory. There we go. Now we can see what we're doing. Alright. Another thing I realized is I'm going to need a lot of belts if I'm going to create a main bus, at least something resembling a main bus early on. This is just not sufficiently clearing off of this belt, so I'm going to go ahead and do another little hackneyed temporary jury-rigged system for getting those plates off that belt faster. Alright, but eventually I am going to need to build... Why is this one not working? Like, it's just not feeding it over. That seems strange. It's not full. The one next to it is not full. That's weird. I'll figure that out later. I can see my stone drill is out of coal, but I don't really need a lot of stone right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, and build up a bunch more drills, because I'm going to need them eventually. And just kind of wait for those to build in my inventory while I think about some other plans that we're going to be tackling in the near future. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get a yellow belt factory up and running over here. Again, this is all just temporary. Once I get the main bus up and running with all the stuff that I desperately need, I'll be moving my science facility to a more proper layout. This is just sort of, you know, to get us there in the meantime so that we have research going. It's not the fastest, it's not the greatest, but it works for now, and that's all that matters. Eventually, like I said, it'll all be moved over. Alright. I have 3 inserters feeding off of the same box. Alright, that's actually working pretty fast there. And I've got plenty of iron plates. I am going to eventually need to do the same thing for my copper, but I'm not going to worry about it right now because what I have there now is working alright for me. It's the iron plates that are getting chewed up by all of this construction over here. Just trying to figure out why it's not moving as fast as it should. Because the regular inserters are just not fast enough coming out of that box. I'm going to go ahead and put a few fast inserters. Now early on here it might be kind of unwise to use a lot of fast inserters because they chew up a lot of electricity, and right now I'm not generating a whole heck of a lot of it, so I'm going to have to watch out for that. But then again, the system is pretty easy to expand. Eventually I'm probably going to end up moving all this research stuff. Yeah, I think this area right here is going to be a good spot for a main bus. I'm going to go ahead and start laying out some preliminary concepts. And I can never remember how many lanes on my main bus that I actually want. I'm going to go ahead and start there. I'm also going to need something to remind myself of what all of these lanes are going to be used for. I'm just going to dump a few iron plates out there. And these 4 lanes will be for copper. The next 2 will be for electronic circuits. God, it's been so long since I've done this, I can't even remember the names of anything. Alright, we're going to have red circuits, blue circuits, coal, stone, steel, and I honestly can't remember what else we might need. But I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. Just make sure everything's up and running and get some new research going. And I think that is going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Azrael Wormser. Never stop building.